So,
Yeah.
all right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to move on, getting closer to the end of the show. But as we do, we always support all the members of the Let's Talk Football community. And on the show that I was on earlier, myself with Mr. Sidney Swenson, he has gotten himself into a little he's getting into the football card game, man.
Yeah.
He is pushing cards. He has definitely got him a lot out. I have a boatload myself, a little Justin Herbert.
Oh, I
You
like
know what I
that.
mean? I got a Waddle. I think I got a Mac Jones rookie over here, Zach Wilson. So I'm definitely an old school card, trader. You know what I mean, and
Yeah.
collector. So bringing back that. But he's on TikTok. He's doing his thing, man. Almost 2,000 followers. Check him out. Check out this video. Yeah, buddy. So shout out to Sidney Swinton and shout out to his lovely wife Ash for creating that. That had me hyped. I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
snap, yeah!"
Yeah.
Are they gonna be playing this song while we're doing it? Like this is hot. So
Yeah.
definitely love them for that. Definitely check it out. Like I said, I've gotten a number of cards. One of the first times I did it, I got a Jamar Chase rookie card.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, "Oh,
love
I'm hooked."
Jamar.
I'm hooked at that point. And I think when one of the last card sets I got, I think I got a Chase Young rookie. So that's I'm
no
good.
way.
I'm
Wow.
good. I got what I needed. I'm definitely solid. But ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go ahead and move on, getting you ready for the 2022 college football season. We have selected a number of teams, each of us, that we're gonna break down, dive into, look into their upcoming season, kind of compare it with last year, what our expectations are, and kind of, hey, bring you into the season. We're all getting ready to it. We're all hungry for it, but it's still sometimes away. So we're gonna kind of give you a little something about some of these teams we're following. I'm gonna start with my guy, Mr. Alex Loosemore, and even though he's got that M on his hat, he's covering Wisconsin today.
Yeah.
What's up, Alex?
Yeah. As an offensive lineman, I got mad respect for the Badgers, just
Oh, yeah.
constantly pouring out offensive line, and just mad respect for them as one of the Big Ten powerhouses. So, I chose Wisconsin. Their record last year was 9-4. They won the Las Vegas Bowl over ASU. Their key returning players, obviously quarterback Graham Mertz, was not very good last year. Had a 59.5 completion percentage. Threw for 1,958 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. So definitely needs to improve on those.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really have anybody behind him to take over, so he's their guy, unless they get somebody transferring throughout the summer, but expect him to be the guy there. The star for this team, the big name player, he's already in Heisman talks. It's running back Braylon Allen.
Mm-hmm.
He played in 12 of the 13 games last year, started only 9, but he had 186 carries for 1,268 yards and 12 touchdowns. Not really a receiving guy. Had 8 catches for 39 yards, no touchdowns. Didn't fumble the ball last year. So expect him to run behind that offensive line. They've got 3 returning offensive linemen. Last year's right guard, Jack Nelson, is a sophomore. He's now going to left tackle. They've got their right tackle returning, senior Tyler Beach, and their center in junior Joe Tippmann. So your outside guys and your center are locked in, returning this year. Receivers a little thin. Their number 3 receiver jumps up to number 1 in Chimere DK. Only had 19 receptions for 272 yards and a touchdown. So there's a lot up for grabs there. They've got 2 freshmen coming in. I believe Skylar Bell, and I can't remember the other name. But there's tons of receptions up for grabs there. The defense is going to be in rough shape to start. They're replacing 8 starters, including the entire secondary.
Wow.
The key players returning there. You've got Nate Herbig, who's going to be one of the top edge rushers in the draft next year. Had 9 sacks and a forced fumble last year. He's really good off the edge. Had it not been for Hutchinson and Ojaba last year, he was the top edge rusher in the Big Ten. Nose tackle Keanu Benton is a senior. He's going to lead that front three. And then all 3 corners that are supposed to get the majority of the playing time this year are all transferring in. You got Justin Clark from Toledo. I believe he's a grad transfer. He's played 47 games, 18 starts. Not afraid to tackle. He's got 115 tackles, 4 of them for loss. He's got 4 picks and 16 breakups. We got Cedric Dort Jr. from Kentucky. He's another grad transfer. 51 tackles, 7 pass breakups, and a forced fumble. No picks or anything, though. And then we've got Jay Shaw from UCLA. 16 starts in 43 games, 88 tackles, 5 interceptions, and 12 pass breakups. So there's your ball hawk guy. Your lockdown corner of sorts. The breakout guy for the safeties to me is Hunter Wohler. He was a 4-star recruit. He's kind of worked his way into the lineup. I think this is going to be his breakout year. This coaching staff is ridiculous. Head coach Paul Christ has been there 7 years. He's 65 and 23. He's 43 and 16 in conference play. 6-1 in bowl games. He's won the Western Division 3 times. He hasn't won the Big Ten championship yet. But them along with Iowa kind of own that Western Division.
Yep.
And mainly because of that defense and defensive coordinator Jim Leonard. It's his 6th year as the Badgers defensive coordinator. Always leads one of the top 10, top 5 defenses in the country. They're always up there in points allowed and yards allowed. And they're always pumping out pass rushers and safeties. And they're a phenomenal defense year in and year out. The interesting one, though, is they got a new offensive coordinator. They got Bobby Engerman. He spent the last 8 years with the Ravens in the NFL working on – the first 3 years was working with receivers and the last 5 working with tight ends. So he's helped Mark Andrews develop and Nick Boyle and Hayden Hurst. A lot of these guys that are getting quite a bit of playing time and doing quite well with it in the NFL. And he's got the connection with Paul Christ, worked with him at Pitt University in 2012, 2013. As far as how I think this season's going to go, kind of around the same as what they were last year. They're going to be 9-3 or 10-2 after conference play and after the regular season. I think your only losses are going to come to some of these other Big Ten powerhouses, whether it's Iowa, whether it's one of these Eastern teams. I think they're only going to lose a couple games this year.
I can dig that. Oh yeah. I'm interested to see what they do, especially with that running back out of the backfield. I think honestly, we already know they always have some premier running because that O line is so solid. I was watching a clip the other day. I think I sent you guys of Melvin Gordon when he did what he did. You know what I mean? So they always have
Jonathan Taylor and Monte Ball and oh man,
going down the list. Back to Ron Dane back in the late 90s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I loved Ron Dane.
Right? Yeah. You know, they always have a dominant run game, and they're always in contention, like you said. They in that part of the Big Ten, it's them and it's Iowa. You know what I mean? And the same kind of hard-nosed football. So I'm eager to see what they do this year. Thank you for that. I like that. Yeah. And next, to move on to a team that made it all the way to the final game this year, came up just short. I know our guy Anthony Handy likes to remind us of that. The Alabama Crimson Tide. They're back.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what they do this year because I know Nick Saban's frustrated with the whole NIL thing right now. He and A&M went back and forth in the off season about that. In comments, but they're looking to avenge a very devastating national championship loss to Anthony Handy's Dogs, and they have two really big anchors coming back for their team. They have the returning Heisman Trophy winner of Bryce Young and defensive beast Will Anderson. And many predict it'll be a repeat of the SEC. That's the Crimson Tide, Anthony Handy. And I have mad respect for Nick Saban as a coach and as a leader and how he manages that football team. And they are like my second go-to team, if many people don't know, to watch when I'm not watching Michigan. I love watching Alabama. I should actually bring on my best friend Jody sometime. She is a huge Alabama fan.
Come on.
Huge Alabama fan. She could probably talk all of us under the table about those boys. And they do predict they'll probably face Anthony's Dogs in the SEC championship.
Yeah.
I know recruiting's been a challenge for them lately as far as the whole NIL thing. They're not at the top of the list anymore like they used to be. And I know for a fact that Nick Saban is going to be working harder than ever to get players to come play for him. Right now, top players at position at quarterback, you're looking at Bryce Young, who's the returning Heisman Trophy winner. You got Jalen Milroe, who had extended reps this season, and he really played well in their spring game. And then you have freshman Ty Simpson coming in. So you have Bryce Young, then Jalen, then Ty. Running backs, you have Jahmyr Gibbs. He's had an MVP performance in their spring game, looked really good. You have Trey Sanders or Jace McClellan, who was recovering from a season-ending injury, if we didn't know that. Yeah. And then you have Roydell Williams and Jamarian Miller also in the running back core, but it's going to be Gibbs first, then Sanders if McClellan isn't coming back from his injuries just right. The tight end unit is probably their shallowest unit in a long time. They don't have much talent there as of right now. Cameron Latu is probably the most veteran tight end right now for them. Yeah. You have Robbie Outs, who's showing great improvement, Amari Nablack, and Elijah Brown or Danny Lewis Jr. Those are the underclassmen in the group, but right now that's the unit that Nick Saban needs the most improvement at because they have the least amount of talent at. Mm-hmm. Wide receivers, you got Ja'Cory Brooks, Trajan Holden, Tyu Jones-Ball, and Shaz Preston at wide receiver Z and wide receiver X. You have Jermaine Burton, who is the Georgia transfer. You should know that name, Mr. Handy. Christian Leary, who's making momentous movement, had a great spring game. Aaron Anderson and Kobe Prentice. And then you have your other wide receiver cores of JoJo Earls, who's a great slot receiver, Kendrick Law and Isaiah Bond. Kendrick Law and Aaron Anderson showed Nick Saban really good stuff in the spring game. So they are in talks of being in the rotation. But right now, your front runner and favorite is Ja'Cory Brooks. And their biggest receiver is Holden right now. He's showing the most in the offseason to prove that he deserves to be in the mix in the starting lineup. And at left, so there's your receiver core right now, your running backs and your quarterbacks. You're looking at your line, so your left tackle of Tyler Steele, Kendall Randolph, or Amari Knight, and Elijah Pritchett. Right now, Tyler Steele is showing the most there. Left guard, Javion Cohen, Terrence Ferguson II, and Dane Shore. Right now, Javion Cohen is showing the most there. And Actually, Tyler Steele, they said, had probably one of the best spring games they've seen from a left tackle in a long time.
Wow.
So, yeah, center. This is their biggest challenge right now online. They don't know who they want as their starting center at the moment. Saban is not impressed with with the three that he has.
Ooh,
so
that's not good.
There's going to be a challenge between Seth McLaughlin or Darian Delcourt or James Brockmeyer. Right now, it's mostly between Seth McLaughlin and James Brockmeyer right now. But yeah, the center is not clicking with Bryce Young very well at all. And it was really hard to watch the spring game for Saban because of that. So that brings us to the right guards, the right guard and the right tackle of Emil Ekiyor Jr., Damian George Jr., Tanner Bowles, J.C. Latham, Tyler Booker, and Tommy Brockmeyer. J.C. Latham pretty much has the start there.
Yeah.
And then you have Vanderbilt transfer Tyler Steen to take left tackle, right guard Emil Ekiyor Jr., and center will probably be Damian Delcourt if he returns from his injury. And then J.C. Latham showed great improvement at right tackle. Delcourt and McLaughlin will battle for center. So there's your offense, which I'm really excited. I just hope Bryce Young can prove that he deserves maybe another Heisman Trophy, but we'll see. I really like the kid. I really like that he has poise and he plays well and he's very mature. So we'll see.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting.
But it'll be interesting. Saban's crotchety this offseason, by the way. I've been watching lots of his press conferences, and that man is just,
people are bucking. They're bucking back up against him.
Yeah, they sure are.
I think they're going to come out and set the world on fire this year. Like after how they lost that national championship game.
Yeah, but
it's going to be tough to play them this year.
So for the defensive side, if you look at the depth charts for the defensive side, for defensive end, you have Justin Abajier, and then you have Braylon Ingram, you have Damon Payne or Moncal Goodwin, and you have Curtis Perry. Defensive tackle, DJ Dale, Tim Smith, Jamie Burrows, Tim Keenan III, and Jaheim Otis. And then defensive end, you have Byron Young, Jamarian Latham, and Anion Barnes, and Isaiah Hastings. He returns 3 seniors, Dale, Young, and Aboje, who are likely starters. Tim Smith and Jamie Burrows will be the inside passing threat. They'll be offered a lot on third down options. Smith could be backup at defensive end as well. He's very versatile and can play multiple positions at defense. And then for linebacker, you have the man who I want to win the Heisman most of all is Mr. Will Anderson. I love that beast of a man. I'm just so excited to see what he brings this season in the SEC and for Alabama. And then you have Chris Braswell also, who also will get lots of playing time. Keanu Cott, and then Henry Tototuos, and he looks solid in the spring game. Kendrick Blackshire and Shaheed Campbell also will be vying for those spots. They have a lot of good linebackers for Alabama. That's for dang sure. They're loaded. They have Jalen Moody, who's also a very good linebacker. Deontay Lawson, Ian Jackson, Sean Murphy. It will be between Moody versus Lawson for that. And then for the Sam linebacker, you got Dallas Turner, who should be a starter. DeMoody Kennedy, Quandrius Robinson, and Jeremiah Alexander. So Nick Saban has a lot of very talented linebackers, so it should be very interesting to see what happens there. Cornerback, you have Kyrie Jackson or Eli Ricks, who's returning from a season-ending injury, if we don't remember that from last season. And then you have Brian Branch and then Malachi Moore. And they're looking at Moore and Branch should be the starters there. And then safeties, they have many good safeties, but the top three they're looking at are Hellman's, Battle, and Story for that position. And so their defense is loaded. It's ready to go. I think it's going to be very interesting to see, and I really hope, sorry, Mr. Handy, but I hope Alabama comes back to dominance in the SEC and rules it again because I love me some Nick Saban. It was hard to watch him coach at Michigan State because I really liked him, really liked the way he ran that team. I think he could have taken that team far had Alabama not come calling. But let's face it, who gets the most coaches plucked from him because of how well he brings people into the fold in Alabama? You look at Lane Kiffin, you look at Sarkisian, you look at all these coaches that go off, Kirby Smart, that go off to coach these big teams. And so...
they finally just this year beat him with Kirby Smart.
Yeah, first one.
And Jimbo, didn't Jimbo? Wasn't he under him?
Yep, Jimbo was.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Look at what Nick Saban does. He brings these talented coaches in as his offensive coordinators, and they just go.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. I hope they're back at where they should be, and I hope Nick Saban has those boys ready to just steamroll. Because I do love them. I do love Bama. It's hard not to love Bama.
So two of the old coaches, Jimbo and Kirby Smart, both got the W. Before I think it was 0 of 25 or 0 of 26.
Something like that, yeah.
You know? And they finally do it. So maybe that's why Saban's a little in his feelings.
Saban's really in his feelings this offseason.
It's gonna be interesting. But like you guys said, the year after they lose, normally it's a buzzsaw. They just go through the competition.
It's kind of like Tom Brady with the Super Bowl when he
and we're moving on. We are moving on from Tom Brady. All right.
But you make the comparison. He loses, he comes back.
There we go. Absolutely. There, I'll give it to you. And then when you give the man, was it avocado tequila? What was it? Is that what he had? He does things like.
Oh man! Oh, wow!
The sacred trophy.
I'll never live this down, will I, Alex?
No.
Oh me. Thank you so much for that. I'm eager to see what they do. And another one of those primetime top power teams, one of definitely the Blue Bloods, Notre Dame, ladies and gentlemen, have gone through some changes. They are perennial favorites and somehow don't get as much love as the storied program that they are. 11-2 a year ago, 6-1 at home. Only losses were to Cincinnati, 24-13 when they went to obviously the Final Four, and they lost in the Fiesta Bowl 37-35 to Oklahoma State, which was a very
phenomenal game.
Exactly. So definitely a great year, but they also had another big loss this offseason. They lost Chip Kelly, their coach, or not
Brian Kelly.
Brian Kelly, sorry. I was thinking Eagles. Brian Kelly, their coach, went to LSU and even gained a little accent and everything down there.
That was crazy.
Like, that's not your voice. What are you doing, buddy?
I guess you do what you got to do to get these kids to sign, right?
Hey, exactly. But he had that team dominating 12 years at Notre Dame, 113-40 record, 2 college playoff berths, one in BCS and one in the the Final Four. They didn't fare too well. That's why there was a lot of interest in him going to the SEC because he hasn't had the most luck with against SEC teams. So it's going to be quite interesting. His replacement, Mr. Marcus Freeman, former defensive coordinator of Notre Dame and Cincinnati, one of the youngest Notre Dame coaches ever. Very well liked by the players. I thought one of the best things I ever saw was that video when they announced him as the coach and him coming into the locker room and all those guys just kind of, showering with love and hugging him and everything like that. I absolutely, yes, I know, Brian. Yeah, I know. Thank you. I do NFL shows and college shows. He's been in both. I heard Kelly. I'm sorry, man. All right. But yeah, so this guy, he's about winning. The team loved him when he was at Cincinnati. He helped them improve. They went from at one point being like 4-8 to going through a span of 3 years where they were 31-6. You know what I mean? We've seen what they've done in the last 2 years, losing one game each year and hanging tough the year before with Anthony Handy's Georgia team, just barely losing that game. So he's well liked. He's got a team around him. He's returning a lot of starters. That O-line, Alex, we were talking about that earlier. Joe Alt, Blake Fisher, Jarrett Patterson. You know what I mean? Like, these guys are solid. He did lose. They are going to lose their play caller. They're going to lose Cone. 3,100 yards last year, 25 TDs, 7 interceptions. Ended up signing, I think, with who did he go to? Where did Cone go? Cone went to the Colts, signed with Indianapolis. So,
that's right.
I'm not sure he'll get any playing time, but now they got Matt Ryan and everything like that. So it's gonna be interesting. Along with that, as we also know, the early pick, the Ravens picked up Kyle Austin at safety. So they lost him. They lost Kyron Williams, the running back, to the Rams. So they lost a number of guys, even Drew White, signed with the Commanders. Linebacker, baby.
Oh.
Let's go. So he's obviously on my list of players that I like.
Yeah.
But they're returning some talent. At quarterback is Tyler Buchner. He's kind of got the head and shoulders lead over the bunch. And I think what's his name? Brad Pine is the backup. Drew Pine is the backup. So Pine got a lot of action in the spring game. It was interesting. And the spring game was pretty solid. It was a real small, close game. And at the end, the third string quarterback, Steve Angelis, on the last play of the game, scrambles out and does like a Tyler Heineke dive to the pylon to win the spring game. And I was like, oh! Yeah, so the whole team awesome. Like rushed them and everything like that. So that was pretty dope, man. But yeah, they got a number of players coming back. Obviously, the big name guy is a tight end, Baby Gronk, Michael Mayer. Number 87, great size, great speed, great hands. Definitely a NFL prospect. You got Jaden Thomas and Braden Lindsey, both solid wide receivers that are definitely going to help things out. Jaden Dickey on the defense. Andrew Yanazak, they're kind of football, like fullback, tight end. I honestly think he's like one of those guys. What's the Kuschek for San Francisco?
Yeah.
One of those fullback types, one of those guys that's going to sneak out in the backfield, catch the passes, and then take the thing 80 yards. You know what I mean? I'm eager to see what they come to the table with. Like I said, they were 11-2. And back to this thing that I was talking about earlier about, a lot of people have been sleeping on Notre Dame and they're, Notre Dame can't get it done. Notre Dame, look, they've had some rough outings where they've got to the Final Four. But Chip Kelly in the last 5 seasons had them 10-3, 12-1, 11-2, 10-2, and 11-2. Like, these guys aren't losing games. You know what I mean? And they play. I know they're in the independent. They're not in the conference or whatever, but they're playing top tier talent. USC. They're playing big name teams each year. So, let's not sleep on these guys. And I think this year is going to be a lot of the same. However, they come out the gate and with a big name matchup, talking. They're going to Ohio State to play them
I can't
on the
wait for that
3rd.
game.
That
That's
is going to be
a good game.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what that one because I want to see. This is a test. That's a measuring stick. Let's see how good you are out the gate. Notre Dame, new coach. Let's go. So let's see if they can pull that one out. Then after that, they go up and play California. I think they can get that W. They play my Tar Heels on the 24th, 2 days before my birthday. Sorry. I know I'm doing a preview on you guys. You're taking the L, baby. Taking the L. Let's go. No, but we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. We lost our best, brightest piece. Go up against a BYU team that's been good in the last couple of years, but lost a couple pieces in the draft. Stanford, UNLV, Syracuse, Clemson. Honestly, I'm seeing them go about a 10-3. I think, honestly, it's going to be a little bit of transition and coming out the gate, talking about going up against Ohio State. Oh, Marshall's in that mix as well. Going up against Marshall, who was no slouch last year. Ohio State wasn't. We'll see about Cal and my Tar Heels. But, hey, Mac Brown always has a team ready to go, ready to play. This will be a big-time game for us. So that month of September is going to be interesting. But if they get through that, I can fully see them, 10-3, definitely get into a New Year's Six bowl and starting off the Marcus Freeman era on a good note, So I'm ready, man. I'm ready because look, I'm somebody that way back in the 90s when I had the little box TV that got like 4 or 5 channels. One of the channels I got on Saturday morning was Channel 4, NBC, Notre Dame. And that's, Tim Brown, Rocket Ishmael, all those guys, Jerome Bettis, Ricky Waters. That was that time when it was like, yes, I love Notre Dame. And I hate that, like, they've gotten such a bad rap over the years because obviously once they get to the, the big games, they seem to choke. But at the same time, I'm like, these are my guys, Nuke Rockney, Rudy, Lou Holt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I've always been in love with Notre Dame. So I'm hoping they do something. They bring it back. And Marcus Freeman, I love what I'm hearing about him. So let's see if they could take it to the next level.
It'll be curious to see if we do, talking about earlier topics, the conferences where Notre Dame will fall being an independent in those conferences. I'll be curious to see if they go Big Ten, they go SEC, they go where they go, because they're going to have to pick at some point.
And see, that's the other thing, because in basketball, they're technically in the ACC.
Yep.
Because they play with us in basketball, but I'm wondering if they move maybe to the Big Ten, especially if the ACC eventually does dissolve or goes into these other 2 conferences. I'm wondering just how that'll play out. It's going to be very interesting.
Hey, I have a lot of Notre Dame fans in my family.
Oh, yeah.
I have a lot of family right at that Indiana-Michigan border.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And one of my favorite uncles is a huge Notre Dame fan.
I can dig it.
So I have to hear about Notre Dame. Trust me.
I love
and I have a good
matchups.
Catholic family, so
yeah,
of course they like Notre Dame.
Yeah.
One of the movies that my mom got me when I was very young on VHS, that I still watch to this day, Rudy.
Yeah,
Rudy by Rudy Rudiger. That movie just did something to me. Yeah.
And New Rocky had some of the best pregame speeches of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love it. I love that. That to me is college football, though. That was always so fun. NBC, Saturday morning, getting up, watching Notre Dame, watching all the different things in college football. I loved it. Every stadium. Oh, my God. Every single stadium, the way it's erected, all the mascots, the whole nine. That is college football.
And hearing Keith Jackson's voice growing up, that's college football.
Oh, Nelly. Yeah.
Oh, I loved listening to a good Keith Jackson game.
Oh, my goodness.
Waking up to, I used to watch ABC, growing up, because that's where Michigan played most of the time.
Yep.
It was on ABC. So their pregame and everything growing up was was what I used to watch. And Keith Jackson was my voice growing up.
Oh, I can dig it. Thanks for watching. If you like that clip, be sure to check out the other great content from the Let's Talk Football community. And as always, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when more great content like this becomes available.